Here we go. Yeah, the whole market just took an absolute shit today and yesterday, and the inflation numbers came out, spooked everybody. It looks like any kind of cryptocurrency is actually directly tied to like the tech sector. So yeah, and so it makes sense why it was moving out of sync with some of the major indices out there over the last like 2-3 years. It turned out to be a little bit more volatile than people thought. I don't know, man. If I had some cash laying around right now, I'd probably buy some more. So
no, the only question is whether or not it's bonded, but that doesn't even matter because
I'm in for a pound. So yeah.
Did you see the number on this? That 40% of all coin holders are
upside down.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not surprised by that at all. Yeah.
So it's gonna bounce back.
It will. I mean, I don't know. It feels a lot like it did in 2017. So I remember the crash in 2017, and for a little while there, I was upside down. So because it went down so far, and then it stayed down to like, I mean, Bitcoin is down to like the $3,000 or $3,500 mark for about 2 years before it started to go back up. I don't know if it's going to take that long. Well, that completely depends on how bad inflation turns out to be. So,
well, they did try to say that they think the worst of it is over.
I'll believe that when I see it, man.
I agree.
Yeah.
That is
once Shanghai is not completely locked down, I'll start to buy that again. Either that or you see American supply chains pick back up. That'll take more than a year.
It'll take more than a year. And more to the point, okay, my big question on this, and this could be a game changer, right? Because sometimes you look at
off goes the dog.
You look at the reality of a situation when you're making a judgment in terms of like supply. Okay. Yes. All right.
Yeah, you might want to close it.
All right. Hold on. If you want to go outside, you're welcome.
You gotta let the dog out.
Do this for a minute.
All right, hold that thought, man. We've been live for like 3 minutes.
Okay.
So,
okay.
I'm Pat.
I'm Jeffrey.
That was Kinshasa.
It was. It is.
It is.
She's outside now. What are we doing right now?
Complaining about cryptocurrency on coffee before bed.
We are not just crypto, but markets forces
in general.
And when like the repercussions of when certain cultures just adhere to staying the course on the stupidest policies possible, right?
It's pretty pig-headed, man.
Of course.
Yeah.
And just you're strictly doing this on the ground that saying like this worked before, back when you were lying through your stupid teeth, and now you're committed to the long game.
Yeah.
Saying if we change course, then that means that we did it wrong the first time.
Yeah.
And
man, that's face culture though, man. I mean, there's quite a bit of that on the left here in America, but that's kind of gone away. Because eventually you get to the point in time where it's like, well, fuck, man, I want to go out and hang out with my friends too.
Yeah, I know. And you know what? To that end, look, I'm going to say this. Right now, there's a lot of people privately eating crow. Okay.
Yeah.
When the correct course of action would have been to drag them out to the public square and.
I don't need vengeance, man. Revenge doesn't help nothing. So let them cry in their basements for a little while.
No, because the theory on this is there any way that we can prevent you from doing this next time? And you're right, you can't.
They're not.
You can't because even if you drag them out there and get them in a crow eating contest, they still won't have learned a thing from this.
No.
But still, I understand. All right, but my big optimistic idea on this is perhaps what this does is it actually spreads out the manufacture of microchips beyond that part of South Asia.
Yeah.
And places are encouraged to do this in other locations.
Well, there is a microchip bill, isn't there? There was
possibly here. Yes, that would be.
No. I'm serious. There was one.
I know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know the details behind it or if it's been signed or what.
I just saw the chattering about it, but at least if there's chatter, then that means that possibly certain agencies are willing to throw money at it to make it a reality.
My understanding is that, like, so the deal is that you can't actually find most of the minerals that you need in North America for that. I mean, they did so before because, you know, back when you and I were, I know, we had the big old plant here in town that was making that shit. Now it's the giant DMV. So it's weird, man. Yeah. So, but, you know, and then the only thing that was kind of an issue with it was, part of it had to do with environmental regs, but then the other part of it had to do with like long-standing trade agreements that we have with certain countries that provide this.
I think it's time to.
Well, we send them food and they send us chips. You know.
Yeah, I get it, but this is like. We may have to Cal Rizzi in this one and just be like, pray I don't alter it any further, because it might be worth it to look at our negotiations and see if this is really what we want, and if there might be a better solution.
Yeah, I think I think you're going to start to see some of that make its way back. I don't know though, man. It'll depend on a couple different things. So, like, I saw fucking Elon Musk today twittering about fucking
tweeting is what you're looking
whatever.
for. Yeah.
So about what was it? American workers being lazy again, and that dude's gonna get his fucking dick caught in a ringer over there in China.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
I don't think he cares.
I don't. Well, I think he will. So when they actually fucking take his Tesla plant away from him over there, they've clept everything else.
He had to know that was.
I don't know about that, man. So I don't know about that. I think he's got a little bit of the China Kool-Aid in him.
I think what he's doing, and
I think this is actually a blind spot of his. Let me just put it that way.
I understand that, and again, this is all supposition when it comes to determining what exactly is going on in that guy's head, because, you know, the dude just did round up $44 billion just to prove a point. So whether or not that has taken you into full-blown saving my jars of piss at home because I'm Howard Hughes, or
I don't think he's wearing tissue boxes on his
or
feet,
you know,
he might. You know? He starts going up to the Met Gala barefooted, then you start to worry, man.
I don't know if he's fermenting his own fluids or if he's onto something. My whole thing is I think that his whole shtick is, I think he's willing to trade the tech that they're already stealing.
They've already ripped it off,
right, for a lower cost of manufacture.
Yeah, but that's what he's going to lose out of the entire deal. So, I mean, and that's the thing. And I mean, there's so many companies that have gone over, they've found that out, man. They say, well, fuck this place. We got to go down to Thailand now. Or, you know, same thing. We're going to hop over to India or something like that. You know, he's just the last guy at the party. So I don't know, man. I think it's only a matter of time. So
were it me, if it were my decision, and again, I'm not going to go too far into this because he clearly has things figured out better than I do in some ways. I would have probably aimed for Brazil, but that's me.
Yeah,
because it's a developing market. I know that there's. Fortunately, I do have contact with people who are working in the tech sector in Brazil, and it is ready and willing and able and looking for people to invest there because they want to turn that corner in a bad way. The people who in Brazil who are on that edge want everything. Let's say this. The people I know that like the country want elements to come in that help them wipe away the parts that they don't like. There is a cloud on Brazil
Long
that
time.
they know about, and they're like, I wish they could go away. I wish.
Oh, that whole fucking corrupted election thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the military dictatorship. Yeah. No,
Yeah, that's not cool.
No, that's not cool, but that's like par for the course in China, man. So, I mean, that's just the way the country operates. It's a fucking gangster state. So, and it's got 1.3 billion people that's holding hostage.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Yeah. And it's only a matter of time before they collapse his fucking factories. So, Xi Jinping gets under pressure, like internally and stuff like that. That'll be one of the first things that they'll look at is like, oh, well, obviously the problem are fucking foreigners. And here's the biggest example of foreign influence that we have in the fucking country. And they're just going to yoink that thing. So,
like, oh, you guys are banging the pots and pans not because you're hungry, it's because foreigners.
It's because foreigners told you to do it. Oh my God.
Nuts. Like, there's only so much you can say. Like, you guys are so dumb. But there's just this thing they're taking for granted. It's like, you ain't gonna do shit. It's wrong. There will be, bro. There will be repercussions out of this.
I think so, man. But you never know. I mean, I don't know, man. I'm a little pessimistic on that one. Kind of like the ADV guys. That it's just it doesn't cut. That would cut completely against the grain of like the culture, the history. With only rare exceptions, and nobody remembers those fondly. They're probably about like fucking 6 months to a year from going full blown Mao on this place. He's already got the Little Red app, which is freakishly similar to a little book that I have. That's been linked to the death of 60 fucking million people. Yeah. So it's absolutely bonkers. Like. And I mean, that piece is kind of like what set up this next piece, because if you think about it, like, you and I probably know more about Chinese history than most fucking Chinese. There's an extremely ethnocentric, backwards way to look at shit. But fucking hey, man, I gotta call it, because, like, I've had plenty of Chinese students over the years who didn't know fucking shit about their own country.
Well,
So,
and more to the point, Patrick, it's only been in the past year or so where I've been able to see this from a perspective other than what is widely presented. I'm going to tell you
me too.
that my previous perceptions about this place, I've discussed this before, is widely inaccurate. And at the time, I was like, wow, these guys are scary. I'm like, no, they're not. They're stupid.
They're silly. Yeah.
There's just a lot of them.
Yeah. No, and now you realize they're fucking
like,
absolutely terrifying,
Yeah.
So, and again, it's not that there's 1.3 billion of them. It's that they get this, freaking absolute. What's the right mythical beast that I want to put at the center of the?
Tell me about this mythical beast.
I don't know, man.
Characteristic?
Yeah, it's got a squid face. I think this might be the Chitulu in the middle of the ocean. So. That's just holding everybody there fucking hostage. Well, I don't know, man. I don't get it. And see, the weird thing is my Chinese students over the years who just up and fucking disappeared 3 years ago, even before the COVID. Now that I know what I know, and especially them going through a Confucius Institute, it's like, holy shit, man, some of you guys were spying on each other. That fucking sucks, man. So, and some of them were damn fucking cool people,
right?
And it's just like, oh man, no wonder you guys didn't want to talk about that. It's not because you didn't want to talk about it with me. It's that you couldn't talk about it in front of her, kind of thing. Yeah, and that's just that's ass, man. Now that I realize that was going on right underneath my nose.
Well, just think about the terrifying reality of this is, even when you leave the goddamn country, you are still not free,
right?
Because of the efforts of this, again, for ultimately self-defeating purposes, right?
Yeah.
This is, even if the corruption is working for you, you and I both know that is a path that you could only walk for so long before the inefficiencies that you create destroy you.
Well, yeah.
It is always happened. Yeah. Always happened.
Well, you're seeing it happen in Russia right now, man.
Oh, God, those guys.
Oh, dude, I've actually been doing some checking up on that because it kind of fell off the news radar.
Yeah.
Last maybe week or so, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And sounds like the Russian military is almost an open riot.
So,
You can't get straight stories. You can't trust your sources because everybody's got a vested kind of like take on everything. But at the same point in time, there's enough anecdotal evidence in mass to actually kind of give you a little bit of a better picture of what's actually going on, in some respects. I mean, it's still limited, but it's like, and then they have a fucking parade.
Yeah.
And
it's like you heard the pablum that came out.
I heard 10 different fucking takes on that motherfucking thing. I don't know what to make of it. Some people say, oh, it's a big nothing burger. Other people were like, oh, well, look how feeble Putin is because he's wearing a fucking blanket. It's Russia.
Dude, so, come on, man.
And it was like, man, everybody out there has got their own fucking take. Oh, the Air Force was grounded and the weather was beautiful. But then somebody, actually, it was really shitty where the airfields were. It's like, man, I don't know who the fucking believe here.
On top of that,
give me a straight take.
Yeah, on this, what is, it's a historic holiday. They do this all the time.
Every year.
But the language and what was being said is the exact same thing he's been saying for the past
2 decades.
Yeah. Well, on top of that,
well, yeah,
this menace of the West, and the West being your closest neighbor, who, what I can confirm, did actually mount a successful counteroffensive.
Yeah.
If you're the power that you say that you are, you guys should have this done, but you don't.
They're not. They don't have the beef. Now, so the one positive take that I did see was they've basically wiped out that unit that's full of Nazis.
The Azov.
Whatever, and so, which apparently actually does have some kind of Waffen SS hints to it. So.
Dude, I'm not convinced that there are factions within our military that don't have some.
Well, I don't know. If you
to that extent,
if you take Punisher skulls as Schustoffel bolts, yeah, okay.
Well, let me say this. I will say that there are factions within our military that have very strong feelings about Islam in general. So I'm not saying that in terms of we're not elevating white power. We just hate these people very, very much.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not.
I think most of that's kind of it's not where it was 12 years ago.
No.
Yeah.
No.
In fact, I haven't met too many service members who are terribly upset about what happened in Afghanistan. I've met a couple, but it's about a 2-for-1 split on people who are like, thank God, man.
Right.
Thank God nobody else has to go there.
It's the same thing where it's like either we win this thing or we stop.
Yeah.
And look, my understanding is there's a lot of people that have that exact same feeling about what happened in Vietnam, where it was like either win this thing,
right,
or stop,
right.
Don't we have the Civil War is in the same way, right? Because the North theoretically could have kicked the living crap out of the South, but they were like, it's only a couple of local yokels that are supporting this.
Well, yeah, until the first big battle,
right.
See, the difference about the Civil War is your first big battle didn't happen till fucking 9 months after the thing started. Because it takes that long to get all the dudes together.
Supplies and troops. Yeah.
And so that's today, everybody being like Twitter, next week, what the fuck's going on, man? Go to the South, and so people would be we'd have South Carolina troll farms.
I could have all these people today. It's like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna go fight for the North. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Yeah,
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna pick up a rifle. Yeah. So. And so, but it took forever. I mean, World War II is the same way, and people don't realize that. It's so Hitler invades in September, and then France doesn't get invaded till May. So it's 9 months later, when all of a sudden they're like, oh, fuck, the Germans are serious. So, yeah. And then, it fell in 6 weeks or something like that. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it was oh, we got a war.
Yeah, that's true. You have a lot of people oh, God. Oh, damn.
But if you were on Twitter and it's Christmas time, you're come on, wrap it up, guys. Go after him. Yeah.
I know.
Not realizing that, by the time summer rolls around, the entire world is gonna fall apart. So I don't know, man.
I know, and you know what? I guess this is the thing this is, and I've said this before, and I don't mean this to throw any unnecessary dislike on my family, my mother in particular, right? All I'm going to say is that I love her. She's a good woman, but I will say that her standard rational capacities don't line up with your average person's, right? So when you try to analyze things from a standard logical perspective, you're going to strike out more often than not because, number one, you're not capable of understanding it from her perspective. And two, you're assuming logical arguments based off of arguments with a logical person.
What are you guys fighting about?
Oh, pick a topic, man. We've
I thought you were going somewhere with this.
Well, this is all I'm saying when it comes to like this, me and my predictions and Russia and all this. Every one of my predictions is completely clouded with me debating with somebody who is perfectly logical and on my level. I don't understand the situation. I'm done trying to predict it because I'm assuming the action of somebody who's completely rational and logical on my level.
Yeah. So you don't think Putin is there?
I don't know if he's there, but if he is, he's playing under a completely different set of rules
I agree.
than I could possibly imagine. Because otherwise, I'm going to tell you, either one of two things would have happened at this point, right? Is you either would have hit the paint hard, said like, I'm bringing everything. We've got to bring this to a close, right? We did that with individual troop surges within our stuff.
We did.
And we did see some success, but there was like, all right, what's the full commitment? I can see why certain things fell apart, right? Whereas like this, I'm like, whatever your objective is, you haven't achieved it. So either you send everything you have, or you say, all right, we did it.
Well, he might be facing constraints that we don't know about.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Or he might be operating under different assumptions. Or quite honestly, I don't know. I still go back to my civilization thing. The guy just wants to fight a war. He just wants to be a wartime guy for a little bit. I mean,
could be right, but that doesn't feel logical.
Nah, it doesn't feel terribly logical unless you've been an isolated ruler for a long time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's a conditional on that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, I could say the same thing about Xi Jinping, though, man. So I'd be really worried about that. If Putin had actually knocked this thing off in like 2 weeks and captured the dude, like I said, wow, yeah, maybe he's just going to go after the dude and grab him and then say, yeah, surrender or your president gets it. So,
you could, but I gotta.
But that didn't work.
It didn't work,
yeah.
and he's there. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's there. He's appearing on programs like. You can see him taking pictures with Nancy Pelosi and shit. So
what the fuck, man? Yeah.
I mean, if you want to talk about the
if there was one time that I think I would have actually. I kind of like the Zelensky dude, but if we're gonna burn a good cruise missile strike,
I got you. It's weird. It's weird when our country allows the most meaningless reanimated corpses to go over there and represent us. I'm like, dude.
I don't know if anybody can tell her no.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
I would.
I would assume that the State Department could say that's a bad idea, but I don't think anybody could actually tell her no, you can't do that. Who could actually rein in Nancy Pelosi? Maybe Biden. Maybe.
And he'd be like, I don't know, sounds like a good idea.
Right. Well, yeah. You'd be like, well, I need my bill back better, Bill. So why don't you go as long as you do this for me? Yeah. I don't know, man. That thing's fucking cooked. So
that whole movement, you know what?
It was stupid.
It was stupid. And you know what? These past few weeks have just exposed and just sucked all the wind out of the sails of what was supposed to be the loudest voices in that party. Because
and the Democrats?
absolutely, because
Oh man, how many losses can you take before you shut the fuck up? So
well, I think they're finally starting to see that, man. Because
Yeah.
there's I'm going to say this, they did not win the fight on the Florida Disney thing. Okay, they lost it hard.
they lost that one bad.
Really bad.
Yeah.
It's so much to the point where the PR firms for Disney, the ones that work for like Coca-Cola and all those guys, are like, "Would you guys shut the fuck up about this?"
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I saw a really good insider article about that.
Tell me.
Well, that was basically the gist of it. So I was basically going down the litany. They said, okay, so, these are different response strategies. And the one that was actually suggested the most strongly was like, just go back to making money. Okay?
Right.
You're very good at that. Just do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but anyway, yeah. So that was a hard loss.
Yeah, it's so funny because you're right. When you're driving, there's two ways to slow down.
Yeah.
You can hit the brakes or just ease off the gas. And when they're saying like, dude, you don't have to floor it as hard.
Right. Yeah. Stop
That's
that.
it. Just take your foot off, get it back down to 55, okay? And whatever you do, Disney,
Right.
entertainment media for children historically since your inception,
Yeah.
would
Go
you
do that.
please stop seeing yourselves in a way where you side with pedos?
Right.
Please.
Please. Yeah, so that one, Roe versus Wade. So, although that one has yet to be confirmed, but it looks like that
No.
one's going to be a loss.
Well,
So-
they didn't get it passed through the Senate.
Well, they were going to try. There was no fucking way that was going to get through the Senate. So, yeah, any Republican who turned around and said, "Oh yeah, I'll sign off on that," just signed his own death warrant. So, at least in the primary, maybe not a general.
Yeah.
Actually, I saw some really interesting polling data on that. If you actually poll by like political affiliation, so like Republicans support like 45% like support for overturning Roe versus Wade. So So think about that.
Yeah.
That's okay. So that's of Republicans. So that means 55% of Republicans still support Roe versus Wade. They just shut the fuck up about it.
Right. Right.
It was like, nah, actually, you know what? There's other things that we want. And so, if you're going to take that one away, we'll just shut the fuck up about it.
Well, I think what that 55% is more so than anything is don't care, don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I don't care. Or they're like libertarian guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, my whole argument on this, and look, I will state this for the record one more time. Okay. I have no moral or religious objection to abortion in any sense.
Okay.
As long as you're not doing it like a moment of like where you're like make that game time call where it's like either pull it out or put a railroad spike in it. But that's
Oh, gross.
I don't know. I'm just trying to make a point, but I just like, but I'm just saying, like, if you're asking me where I'd put the cutoff, it's like, yeah, that's probably a little bit too late. If you want to argue the finer details of when is too late, we can do that,
yeah.
right? But I don't have any objection to this. What I do see is the argument that they made sense in terms of, on a legal standpoint, they said the decision was an overreach. Okay, and the argument they've said that the legal decision was an overreach at the time and it doesn't hold water is fine by me.
Yeah, sure.
Because anytime that you can actually strip away power from the federal government and say this belongs in the state's hands, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that because I feel like local communities should have more control over this, and whatever states decide like we want this, we don't want this, I'm like, that's great.
Oh, yeah, they're going to split,
And it's not even going to be a huge split. The majority of them are still going to be like...
The majority of them will still be fine with it. Yeah.
In fact, a lot of them had previously passed laws that said, look, even if they take this away tomorrow, it's still legal.
Yeah, it's still legal.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. And most of the places, if they do, they probably won't ban it outright. They'll be like, well, here are the modifications on this.
Well, and the same thing's true on the federal level. Federal government would never be able to actually get a law through that just banned it federally. I know McConnell was rattling saber about that, but it was like,
Piss off.
oh no, that guy's smart, man. So
Maybe.
but I mean, he knows damn full well he'd never get that through. So
It's not even worth the effort because, like you said, 55%
it's worth
don't
the
even-
effort if it pleases some of your voters and gets you to show up at their primaries and things like that.
Yeah, but if 55% of people are saying like they're not on board with that anyway, that's
Right,
not going to do you any good.
Yeah.
But if they're, honks like me,
There's no
like,
downside to actually doing that, though. To actually saying that you're going to try. There's no downside to it.
oh, and just getting shot down.
Yeah, there's no downside on that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, the great one said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's correct. It's definitely a Gretzky calculation.
And I never want to compare those two.
All right, we'll make a podcast promise here. You'll never ever compare Mitch McConnell to great Wayne Gretzky ever again. So, sorry, Wayne, if you're listening.
So yeah, I understand that, and that's sort of my whole agreement on this, and I would have been absolutely fine if they did nothing with it. It packs me. Not at all. But if they look at this from a legal standpoint and say, look, this is crap, all right, it doesn't stand up to scrutiny, right? Like, all right, fine. Then let the states handle it, which, generally speaking, short of some very specific things, I'm like, good, let the states handle it. They'll be fine. It's a more accurate representation
it actually
of your
works
community.
out pretty well. Yeah.
And, frankly, if it's... You want to hear my big conspiracy theory?
Lay it on me, Jeff.
The big one, because
What's your big one?
I talked to you about this a while back, and you're like, "No, you're dumb." But
I reserve rights, so yeah.
So my big conspiracy.
I'd load one of those in the chamber.
You're welcome to, because it's not going to change it. It's like you said, I was dumb before, and you're probably right now. But the only possible connection I can see as to why this came through in this way, what political advantage this would have, right?
What, Roe versus Wade?
Yeah, is. Especially with the timing of this, is I had a theory once that what Red Team is trying to do right now, okay, is I think they're trying to excise people possibly from potential swing states. They're trying to turn purple states a little bit more red by making things so Republican that they're trying to get blues to move, right?
Oh, you mean leave the state?
Yes. And if you're talking about...
So you're trying to get Democrats to leave Texas, is what you're saying?
Leave Texas, leave Arizona, leave...
All right.
Some of the northern Wisconsin, a couple of places over there, possibly try to get people out of Michigan, different parts of the South, Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay. Where it's the whole thing is if we solidify and eliminate the possible, because when it turns out the actual voting, right, in the past two elections was actually determined by a small amount of votes in a couple of particular places.
It was, yeah.
Right? And so if they get the squeeze on this and say, like...
To be fair, so was the previous one. So...
Absolutely. Yeah. But if you just try to get there and say, like, all right, we're trying to squeeze you people out here that could actually grow the blue base here, okay, and we can count on these states, right? We have to stop trying to compromise with these people. Not that that was ever really the goal, but just say, like, we have to take this, like DeSantis, I think he's 100% on this train. He's like, I'm leading the forefront of this. If you are on board, leave.
Yeah.
Okay? Leave. We're trying to get you out.
Yeah.
Because the straight elements leaving New York and California because of housing prices are impacting elections.
Mm-hmm. Well, the same thing's happening in Texas, too.
Yeah.
So Texas is turning
purple.
Yeah, I think you can make a pretty good argument that it is purple. I think you can make a really good argument that Georgia's purple now.
Yeah.
But see, I think that's a function of urbanality rather than anything else, man. So as urban centers grow, they grow bluer over time.
And that's the thing, is they know that they cannot win by turning urban centers red.
Yeah, but you can't turn to a growing city and say, stop fucking growing, you know? I think that the
city handles that on their own.
Correct. And so I'm not going to turn to you and say that this is a complete bullshit, batshit crazy theory. I don't think it's going to work. So, you know, but I could definitely see some state RNCs getting together and saying, like, well, how do we get rid of fucking Democrats? You know, I can totally see that. So, and I guarantee you there's like a Democratic caucus in California that's been trying to do that too, but that's easier to do against Republicans. All you do is raise taxes.
Yeah, no, I totally
Leave for Wyoming.
Yeah, exactly, and that's because I can tell you from all the guys I worked with, it was like there is definitely a much of like Democrats say the fuck out of Montana, Democrats say the fuck out of Idaho, right?
I don't even do that anymore with Boise, man. So
they just ceded it.
They just ceded that part of the state to the Dems. They say, well, you got too much property value here, so obviously it's going to turn blue. Yeah, which is funny. So because I saw that whole thing about like California's net negative migration last year. Some more people left California. But the motherfucking state made a lot more money. It's weird, man. I couldn't figure that one out. So they actually have a massive tax surplus. So it is crazy.
Well, Patrick, the question is who's leaving, right?
I guess, but when everybody's house is worth $1 million and most of your revenue comes from property taxes. Who the fuck cares who leaves? So,
there it is. But this is when, because I used to be a firm proponent of the giver and the receiver states.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Until you pointed out, until we saw the research, like, wait, who leaves these states? Where are they going?
Yeah.
Oh, so people 50, 55, 60 plus.
Oh, the older folks. Okay.
Leave.
Yeah.
And because what they're doing is they're looking at the value of their housing. They can't afford to stay in California and New York. So they move to places that have lower property costs.
Or they go to places where it doesn't matter what the job market's like.
Exactly. Yeah. And so how does that end up being a drain on the economy? Oh, well, you're not paying in anymore. You're taking out.
Yeah,
and you're doing that because the property costs, because your $1 million, $2 million house in California just bought you a mansion
in Sun City, Arizona. Yeah,
that's one of the places, right? And especially it's like I can get how much house in Texas,
right? Yeah,
and you're telling me I can still also get fajitas here?
Yeah, I could just roll the rest in an annuity and fucking drink Mai Tais all day. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And you say like, all right, well, I don't like swapping out for the In-N-Out for the Whataburger, but I guess I will. They do have 10 types of ketchup, right?
That is true.
And then you can still get so much house in Houston.
Yeah, I don't see too many people retiring to Houston. Man.
No, but
maybe Galveston, but
there are spots over there that are
sure,
because
well, Houston's true blue, so
well, I mean,
yeah. So maybe Dallas, not so much, So I don't know. I haven't been there in a long time, so I can't really speak to that.
No, it is what it is, man. So there's
but it doesn't like the polling numbers right now are so fucking bad for the fall.
It's
gonna be
awful.
It's gonna be a wipeout.
It's gonna be such a wash, and and
see what it's gonna do. And I've seen a couple arguments about this one. Is that it's basically gonna put the ball back in Republicans' court. So they can go fucking lunatic style again.
That's the problem. This always happens.
Yeah.
Every time that Republicans catch the fucking car,
it turns into a Tex Avery cartoon.
My God. They chase it so hard.
Right, yeah.
They chase it and they wear this they wear this like this Christ-like persecution for 8 to 12 years.
I think they enjoy that.
Yes,
I think right now is the point in time where Republicans enjoy themselves the most. Is when the Democrats like run into some stupid like Disney thing kind of issue where they're like so far out on a limb they completely roadrunner themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
And then then the Orange Menace comes back,
and you catch the car.
Catch the car.
Exactly. Is this what you wanted? Right. Who caught it? Because you've been getting in bed with with people whose ideologies you do not share. And this is...
Oh, and some are so batshit crazy, man. So...
Dude, that lunatic from down south.
Dude, she's not even the bad one. I saw a thing the other day that she actually does not get along with that other lunatic from Georgia.
Oh, you talk about MJ...
MJD
Marjorie
or whatever. Yeah.
Taylor Greene.
Right, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
Miller Genuine Draft.
MGD, yeah.
So...
A fancy but not that fancy beer. Yeah.
Yeah, she ain't that fancy.
Oh, no.
So...
She's what is it? Pig on a lipstick? Or lipstick on a pig?
Yeah, that's a little on the nose, but yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. She's a lunatic, though, man. She's a bona fide, like, right-wing, like, out there, like, you know, Azov Brigade kind of lunatic.
No, that's the thing. She's trailer trash with snappy comebacks, right? And that's
right, and designer suits.
That's it.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah,
that's all she is. Yeah. And that works for some people as they're like, oh, she got you. Right? that's no, okay. But that's the thing is people want to take their turn. This is what I told you about the what you were talking about, the exodus from Twitter. Not going to happen because the people that are on there want the persecution. They always feel like they're... Let me give you an example.
Yeah, no, I'm coming around to your point of view on that one, man. The exodus hasn't happened just quite yet. The few people that I did hear about jumping off mysteriously showed back up.
Oh, they said they were back to fight the good fight.
Right, yeah. So the one that'll be interesting, and Musk said this today, that they let Donald Trump back on. Will he actually go back on Twitter? What do you think?
Depends.
I don't know if his ego will let him.
I think so. that he doesn't have to come back. The act of unbanning him is all that matters.
Okay, so you see the symbolic.
It's all it ever is. Because if you say like...
Well, no, I mean, he was actually very effective on Twitter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. But if all Elon Musk has to do is he say like, look, it was wrong of us to do this. I've unbanned his account. If he never says another word here, that's fine. But it was wrong of us to silence this voice because it didn't line up with this, right? It's a no-lose situation for him.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't know if he'll actually take the hit of actually jumping off his truth platform.
He won't.
You don't think so?
No. Okay. He's committed. Dude, you can look the history of his enterprises, and it's not like he ever sits there and wallows in the disaster that was Trump's steaks, right? It's just like, no, when I did it, I ride it until it goes to the end, and it's the best thing ever until it comes to an end. So if that platform self-destructs... Like
Trump's university... Gets shut down by the feds.
He's never apologized. He's never like tried to take it back. It's just like whenever it was going, it's like, no, this is the best university ever, right?
Right.
If it gets shut down, it's like, oh well.
Yeah.
Right. So if the platform fails, cool. He's like, oh, I came back to Twitter. Right.
Okay. Yeah, I see that as being entirely possible.
It's what he's done with every.
Well, all you have to do is actually pull the pin on his own platform. So
yeah. So. Yeah, ultimately that's how I see that. But yeah, it's just to give you an example of persecutions in clown world. Okay, did you catch up on that? The big story was that Twitch streamer that was skipping school.
I don't know anything about this.
All right, get this. So I don't remember which state it's in, but this was another round of like, oh my God, stop persecuting us! All cops are bastards, right? Okay. You got this high school kid, okay? She's identifies as trans, okay? And so...
And she's on Twitch?
Well, she's a youngster. She streams on Twitch, right?
Okay.
Not to a huge captive audience, but it's whatever, right? So what happens is...
God, that's got to be a rough crowd.
No, it's not. Twitch is extremely...
On Twitch?
Twitch is extremely trans-friendly.
Really?
Yes. Extremely.
I must follow the wrong things.
I told you where my bands came from.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
these are the old days, okay?
Old days.
So I'm not talking about
the
that.
all or nothing days.
I learned a thing or two from this, okay? And I tell you, I was just trying to piss people off, but whatever. So anyway, this person streams on Twitch, and there's a trans at school, and she expresses, problems with, the bathroom situation, of course, right?
Sure.
And so the school ultimately comes is like, look, we have to weigh the rights of the students who say this versus the rights of what you say.
Yeah.
Look, here's our compromise, okay?
Yeah.
You have the staff bathrooms. You're the only one with the key to the staff bathrooms. You go there.
Okay.
Okay?
That was easy.
Problem is, she's like, that's unacceptable. So what does she start doing? She stops going to school.
Okay.
Okay, now, stops going to school, starts broadcasting on Twitch exclusively.
Okay.
Okay, what happens when you're a minor and you stop going to school?
Depends on your state. So if it's a state with truancy laws, then
Yes.
you get a call from a truant officer. And in
And
theory, your parents get in trouble. So,
yes,
yeah.
and ultimately, what happens is they have to, if you still refuse to comply, they have to call the regular police.
Yeah, but do they arrest you? I've never heard of someone getting arrested for truancy.
Well, it's a thing where you have to get this person to go to school, right?
Right.
And ultimately, if you're not doing this voluntarily, then yes, the cops have to get involved in some states. In this state, that's the case.
Oh, what state was this?
I don't remember,
Oh,
but
okay.
in this case, they have to turn it over to law enforcement.
Okay, I
Right.
see.
If the person is not compliant. So a cop shows up while this person is on Twitch, right?
Yeah, sure.
And is not confrontational. This person is playing Minecraft. He's
Yeah.
a cop. He doesn't know. So when he comes in, okay, and this happens on stream, the person is trying to be friendly, right?
The cop or the
Yes,
streamer?
the cop.
Okay.
And he's just like, oh, so you're playing games. Are you winning? Right?
Oh,
Now, here's the thing.
you'll win Minecraft.
That wasn't even it.
Okay, all right.
It was, this is a transgender genocide. I'm not shitting you. These are the words
Yeah,
that they
okay,
use.
yeah, got it.
This is the person. It's like,
This completely catastrophized the entire situation.
like-
yeah.
I don't care what person, motherfucker, you go to school. That's
Yeah.
the rule.
Yeah.
Either you get your parents to say, okay, well, you're homeschooled, that's fine. Okay. But if you're like, I'm not here because I'm not comfortable with the accommodations they gave me, thus I stopped going, but I haven't taken the recourse. Yeah, the cops come and say, get to school. And the dude was being awfully friendly about it.
sure.
It was like, no, this is transgender genocide. This is what all people think. I'm like, you guys have fucking lost it. This confluence of things, like when we're talking about that flipping over things, it's not just this. It's when you're talking about all the things that people will be thinking of at the polls, it's like fucking bread costs this much.
I think
gas
that'll
costs
be
this
number one,
much.
and that's going to be number two.
Oh yeah. And it's like my fucking raviolis are rotting outside right now because they're just.
Yeah, I think those are going to be your top 10. So, yeah.
And if you just need a couple other things, it's like God with the never shutting up with the persecution and this. And
Yeah.
it's like that's what I'm saying.
they're going to overplay
The
their
big
hand
thing,
on that.
the big things are going to drive them there, but you're also going to grab some people out there. It's like,
Sure.
and I'm sick of this shit too, right?
Yeah, okay. So I can see just like I'm sick of all the shit, and so I want to give everybody the middle finger again,
Yeah.
Just like I did in 2016 and 2020, and I got robbed in 2020.
I got robbed in 2020. Watch this documentary.
Yeah, all right. So my apologies, but that Twitch streamer story did not exactly make the front page of the Wall Street Journal.
No, of course not. Of course not. No, and it's not supposed
yeah,
to.
yeah.
But it's just like if you have 25 people going out for this,
Sure,
right,
yeah.
then person 26 might be
there.
This,
Go do
right?
some culture warrior pushback. I don't know, man. I think that will actually be a bigger issue in the next presidential election than it will be in the midterm election. Because the Democrats
Right.
get their ass beat this fall, which all indicators point towards that's likely, if not very likely.
Yeah.
Then, like the next time around, I just, I can't imagine going through a whole nother presidential primary season with the Democrats never once throwing down the race card, the persecution card, the Bernie Sanders got fucked card.
I still I still carry that one in my wallet.
Yeah, I've given up on that one. I think he's a sellout bitch. So I've given up. So I've given up. I've evolved in my thinking in terms of Medicare for all. I don't think that the corporate superstructure that is supposedly suppressing the American middle class is fucking bullshit. It's thinner than we ever thought it was before. I've just changed my thinking on all that stuff. So my Bernie card, I tore it up and I threw it in the trash, man. So I'm done with it.
Let me ask you an honest question on this one here.
Sure.
Have you changed your opinion at all in terms of what institutions in this country hold power and how much of it?
Yes. Substantially.
What have been your revelations that have brought you to that point?
Deeper thinking about 2016.
Go on.
Donald Trump demonstrated that corporate money doesn't mean shit in elections.
Okay.
It's way less money than people think it is. So, I mean, the influence that it buys, they buy it in Congress. And so I would argue that, yeah, Congress is probably still a little busted. But the whole idea that just because Hillary Clinton had every corporate donor in her pocket,
Yeah.
she had a multi-billion-dollar war chest.
Yes.
And so did Joe Biden going into 2020. And it was a squeaker.
And on top of that, also had basically a clear lane to the hoop in terms of what
He should have had a
outlets
slam dunk,
and who basically the wide array of people willing to do free campaigning for her at every opportunity.
Well, I'm not even talking about her. I'm talking about Joe Biden in 2020.
Oh, that okay.
I mean,
too, yeah.
Joe Biden, he had a slam dunk. So, I mean, he had a president with a fucking pandemic on his hand. He had half the country basically seeing red to get rid of this asshole. You know, I mean, to the point in time where they'll endorse ridiculous shit out there.
Yeah.
You know, just because they can't be on the other team. I mean, I was kind of on that team too, man. I do not like Donald Trump. I do not want him to be president again. I think he's a disgrace to the fucking office. Okay? All right? I'd rather have a corpse occupy that chair. All right? But still, at the same point in time, I got to see what reality for what it is. All right? That the guy was so fucking popular and didn't need, $1 billion war chest behind him. Okay. And so obviously that speaks to the fact that, all right, so your corporate masters out there, they put their thumbs on the scales, but they got pretty skinny hands, man. So they're not these super powerful dudes who are suppressing the American middle class. So, they can't even get a presidential election right. 2 of them in a row. So, and I think most of the guys who run corporations, they don't give two shits about politics, really. I mean, maybe there's a few people in there who do, and they get on the board and blah, 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 or maybe on some of these flagship, like, premier companies. Okay, but I can guarantee you some of the companies that I work for, they don't give two fucks about that. They care about next quarter. Okay, The
only places where I can say that the people that actually do give two shits, mm-hmm. right, are people who certain decisions by the government, right,
sure.
can radically change their business.
Absolutely.
Without giving them enough time to transition. So,
yeah.
Case in point, our oil guys that I work for were incredibly invested in politics because they're like, if you guys change the lease structure, we could be.
Or if you fuck with Saudi Arabia, okay, I'll give you a couple of those.
And there are some places like that. Like I'll bet you, like in the few places where coal is still business, they probably hit the local areas hard.
They probably try, Well, and I can tell you just from experience that most of those places they got their local state guys in the pockets and things like that. But like honestly, I think, and so I'm a big fan of like Larry Lessig and guys like that who actually pointed towards the corruption in the system as being, this fundamental, and even Dan Carlin was doing this for years and pointing to the fact that, well, it's the corporate influence in America that's actually the problem. Okay. That's the fundamental, that's the root of all problems.
Right.
I don't buy it anymore. So, just because like I've seen 2 presidential elections now where it was like, well, actually, you know what? If you have a guy who's pretty charismatic and can actually speak to a lot of people's truth, all right, that's way more powerful than how many zeros he can put on that check. So, you know,
that goes back to, it's almost like a William Randolph Hearst kind of thing.
it kind of is. I mean,
Well, yeah,
I'm not
it
as
didn't work out
sinister
for
as
him.
that.
No,
It didn't really
no,
work out for
no,
him, so it's
no.
not that sinister, but it goes down to the point in time where, like, okay, so corporations and people with money and power and influence, they can help shape the election, but they can't control the motherfucker once it's out of the gate. Okay, you know, and really when it comes down to it, there's like this time where they pass the football.
Yeah.
I mean, Obama did this in 2008. There was a point in time where John McCain had failed to catch the pass. Okay, and the fucking electorate took Obama all the way to the end zone. You know, and so, like, you know, I don't know. I have a lot more faith in, like, the system, the way it's actually set up right now, because I've watched it happen in 2 presidential cycles now where, like, okay, people spoke the fuck up and it wrecked a lot of people's shit. So a lot of people who you thought were powerful turned out to be nothing. Okay, compared to the fact that, you know, a whole bunch of these dudes were like, you know what, fuck that. I don't want to see her president. You know, I don't care about all the policy shit and all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. All right, I don't want to see her. I don't want any more of this. We need to go somewhere else. And I respect that a little bit more than I did a couple of years ago.
Well, even if it's if it's something that I disagree with on a fundamental level, the fact that people have exercised their control over it gives me a little bit more faith. I gotta tell you, this is something where I held on to it probably a little bit longer than you did, where I was like, you know, I of course, there's this old part of me from the '90s, of course, where it's like, well, you know, it's not politicians, it's how many members the Dow Chemical has on the board,
Right. Yeah.
and things like that. Yeah, where you try. It's where you're taking the yarn, and it's like, all right, here's Dow Chemical. Now I'm going to connect it to. Oh, here it is, the Illuminati. Okay, so
I need the whole spool of yarn.
oh yeah, and then I take out some more yarn, and somehow it ends up down here, and it's like, oh, you know that the lizard people blink sideways. That's how you can tell. That's how you can tell who's there. Because there's a part of me that's still like,
Got a Jewish space laser.
there's a part of me that's still like, I am still a little bit of what the X-Files programmed into me, but I've largely lost that. And the straw that broke the camel's back for me on this one, where I realized, I got shit, was these past few weeks where, all right, a couple of things changed. Disney tried to say that we're a political voice. Disney got their dicks run into the ground, and they're a company that has decades of goodwill in terms of...
It got burned. So, yeah.
And the funny thing is the other group out there who has been trying to... And some of their board members, some of their guys, they can talk about this, whether or not it was a public thing, but I know a lot of the creators were, and the shit they greenlit. Welcome to Netflix. Netflix canceled everything.
They got,
Okay? They canceled everything. And there was so much shit on there where it's like, you can look at the interviews where it's like, our mission is mission is, just like political activism. Well, guess what? When you lose money, those are the first things that the people at the top say, okay, ball that up, put it in the trash, burn it.
The fucking NBA, man.
They're learning.
They probably had the slowest curve, at least so far. But, you know, like, I mean, the whole backing down from China thing and then doubling down here at home and then watching their stadiums go empty, you know, and then all of a sudden sponsors start leaving for the fucking NFL, the hated enemy, you know, and yeah, it was just, it's one of those things, like, I mean, like, voting with your feet really does fucking matter. You know, so in this country, and so, like, if you turn around, there's not a company in this. You could wreck Amazon in a fucking week.
It's happened before.
Yeah, absolutely. If Amazon did something and like half their customers next week said, "Fuck it, we're going to take a week-long boycott," you would shut that bitch down. So,
I mean, you could talk about just certain things, like, dude, when you talk about entities that people thought were invisible, for God's sake, man. Blockbuster was an institution.
It was, yeah.
Okay? They cornered all of the rental market.
Everything.
And more to the point, this is one of the things that I find fascinating is people don't realize that what Blockbuster did was they actually sanitized the entire rental market.
They did.
They was like, so here's the 70s, here's the late 70s, here's the early 80s, and everything's just a local store. They all have that section over there where you go through the beaded curtain, and that's for adults only.
Right.
Okay. Blockbuster's like, no, we're a national chain.
Yeah, we're a national chain.
We don't carry that shit here.
Yeah.
Right. And so they actually cleaned up a lot of things because they put those places out of business.
Yeah, or they turned them into pure porn stores. So yeah.
Right. They're finding your niche market.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying here is after they cornered everybody, it was like, Blockbuster's here.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Right. And then when you go through town and you look at those Taco Bells that don't look like Taco Bells, right? Because they haven't remodeled it. It's
right.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, y'all used to have videotapes.
Yeah, you used to have videotapes.
Like, yeah, that's where the deep fryer.
Yeah, there's a lot of pawn shops that are
Yeah, it's selling a lot of like brick oven pizzas out of fucking old Blockbusters and shit. So yeah, institutions aren't invincible. No. And I mean, like,
I don't know, man. I mean, some of them are there. Yeah. So like the thing with corporations in particular, and the reason why I don't see them as the big bad is I started pulling the numbers, on them, and they're fucking tiny compared to like what the federal government does every single year. It's crazy how small they are. So even the biggest of them, I know. It's like the biggest fucking pimple on the rhino's ass. So that's Amazon,
Bro.
And the same thing like with like other things. It's like I see people do this in news stories so often. This is why I like the journalists, because they're straight on this shit. Okay, people confuse like billions and millions all the time, and they think, "Oh my God, this company made $38 million last year. Let's tax the fuck out of it and have Medicare for all." It's like, go do the math, please, quickly. Okay, that would take about 8 minutes to burn through. All right, so or
what's the population of this country?
Well, exactly.
And you say, all right, so even if we took that and divided it by that number, y'all get a quarter.
You get a nickel. Yeah.
Like 14 cents.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the clearest example of this, this is the shit that turns around in a week. When Elon Musk did the big buy for Twitter, $44 billion.
Yeah, sure.
Fucking people were outraged, and they were saying, like, why aren't you feeding the planet with this?
Yeah.
Yesterday,
I'm sure he did the math.
Yesterday, Congress approved $40 billion.
Oh yeah, and missiles
to the Ukraine.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ukraine, because they're not.
Yeah, not
right?
really. Yeah.
And you turn around and say, wasn't that supposed to feed the whole planet?
Yeah.
Right. Instead of engaging in what seems to be another by proxy war that we don't need to do anymore.
Yeah. So that would be like literally, 330 million Americans, we'll call them 165 million of them are taxpayers.
Okay.
So everybody chips in $20. We just fed the planet, right? Did I do the math on that right?
I don't know. You didn't ask me about like metaphors and iambic pentameter, so I can't do that math for you. Could you phrase that in the form of a rhetorical or literary question?
No, never mind. I know.
Does it have to be math?
I know I'm off on the math. All right, so I'm doing math at midnight here on the fly with only half a cup of coffee. So
it's not that much. Juice, no,
it's not that much. So I mean, literally.
How about $100?
Okay, everybody chips in $100. Every taxpayer in the United States chips in $100. There you go. So you got 165 million. Draw two more zeros on it. That gets us up to 16 billion. Okay. All right. Just do that 3 years in a row. We're good. Or just everybody chip in $200 at once.
It's funny.
I mean, it's but I mean, like America already provides so much food assistance around the world. We give this shit away like crazy. And so it's not a question of like, oh, you can end hunger with that stuff. It's like, well, where does all this food aid go every single year? And then you go to these countries like China that are starving. Okay, so
never cough up,
and never cop to it either.
Yeah.
Okay, so and it's like, all right, so why are you guys storing grain like crazy? All right, more than enough to feed the world twice over. So come on, guys, what's going on here? So I mean, just because it's like, well, that's how we can control things. And you do the same thing. You send something to some, tin pot dictator in the middle of Africa. That's exactly what he does. So he just sits on all of it.
Look, the political situation that they actually outline in Black Hawk Down is not that far off.
No.
When it comes to like
something that hasn't changed in 30 years, man.
Well, what I'm saying here is there's a version of that even goes on in developed countries where it's not like, the Abdul Farik claims this, convoy, right? I'm like, okay, yeah, but that's an exaggeration, but it's also not because it's like
no, that actually
your own
happens.
version of that in developed countries.
Yeah, it's called in developed countries.
Yeah, because ultimately, what do you end up doing with that food? It's not because you're like, well, we want this because we're starving. It's like, oh, okay, well, you get this food, then, well, what do we get? Oh, well, you do have stuff here that we need. All right, so take the food.
Take the food.
All right. So here is 600,000 airdrop pallets of Captain Crunch, and so
it's an ocean of an absolute ocean of Crunchberries. There we go. Jesus. It's so long since I've had any crunch. So
well, you know what? It's at our age. Yeah, the problem is Crunchberries are like there's not as much like iron and
so raise my blood pressure.
yeah. You eat Crunchberries, your doctor's like, okay, stop, and you have to take these pills for like 6 weeks.
Yes.
And like for God's sake, don't go near the water because you'll drown. But yeah, so you send these things over, and yes, it's just like, okay, so what does that entitle? So that gives us first on this if we need it, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Okay. And you find out it's like, oh, okay, well, lithium, huh?
Well, that's handy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, don't mine it now, but if we want it, make sure that we get first dibs on it. Okay?
Yeah.
You can still make money on this.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Whereas,
we'll send you more Crunchberries next year.
This Crunchberry tree doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Whereas, you have. Yeah, I hate to keep picking on China, but it's funny when you can watch people making the same mistakes that you people did. It's like in slow motion, right? Where you're just kind of like, son, I know what you're going through, okay?
Right. Yeah.
And I've got a photo album of me putting my tongue on every 9-volt battery. So you don't have to walk this path, and it's like, you can't tell me what to do. And you sit there, and you're watching China, and you're watching them do this proto-colonialism bit, and it's not gonna work.
It's not working.
It's not gonna work.
It's not working.
The Australia disaster that they just went through, where their major cities are like, you can use power on Tuesday and Thursday. The hospital needs it most, so they get it for 3 days, but that doesn't mean they get it all the time.
No, they don't get it all 5. Of the work days, of the work week.
And you're like, there's this thing where you're like, oh, we're on. You crack your knuckles this way. You're like, we got this. We got this world on lockdown. And you're like, no, you don't.
Yeah, no, dude, it is. So, I mean, not just the ADV guys. There's a couple of the channels that I've been following on that too.
Polymatter's a great one.
Which one?
Polymatter. It's a great one.
Polymatter.
Yeah,
I'll check that out.
Yeah.
But so you see the same narrative coming from multiple sources.
Yes.
Okay, and these are all informed sources.
Yes.
All right. The amount of counter information that I see out there from uninformed or intentionally misdirectional forces is like a fucking tidal wave.
It's insane.
It's crazy, and there's like very few issues that I can kind of see like. When somebody, even people that I respect, and we're talking economists, even Blythe has crossed this path a couple times on me, where it's like, oh, bro, you need to go watch these guys, or you at least need to get up on a refresher,
or acknowledge it, or just
spend a weekend and kind of brush up on this shit. Next time you go to China, so say, hey, I want to drive down that road, okay? And see if they let you do it.
No, this is a good road.
No, this is a good road. We're going to take you down the good road. No, I want to go down that road. No, you're going down the good road. Yeah. And I've had so many people, like scholars, even people that I respect, who, I've been to China, and and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, man, dude, you went over there, you got served Kool-Aid and you don't even know it, kind of thing.
They do that to you in North Korea.
They do it all the time. Well, North Korea is like this one example where it's like all you have to do is look at it. I saw a video the other day where, what was it? It was like a camera crew that was allowed to go in North Korea, and one of the guards with him was bragging. And he's like, "Aren't you guys jealous?" And the camera crew started laughing. And the guy just looked like completely flummoxed. So, and, it was terrible. But I mean, okay, so that's the obvious case. All right,
but that's the same thing.
No, I understand it's the same thing,
and it looks glass and nice.
Well, yeah, but I mean, everybody knows it's North Korea.
Yeah.
So China actually beat everybody to that punch.
Yeah.
And yeah, it had this whole like track where it was doing really well, and that's where the ADV guys really liked it, and blah blah blah, and all this stuff. And then it's just like the last 6 years, where it's completely taken this dark path,
Bro.
and it's gotten acceleratedly worse, And I mean, COVID is it's like, okay, I've seen a couple stories about Shanghai. The one paper that's good about it is the journal.
Because it's like, guys, nothing's getting in or out of this city.
No, exactly.
And here's what this is going to do for your prices.
This is bad.
Look, dude, I'm going to tell you this. Like, if you walk down my street, ask 10 people, 4 to 5 of them will tell you, no, China is way more advanced than we are.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's way wealthier. Yeah, It's like, are you fucking crazy? So, well, all right. So to be fair, most people in America don't realize how good it is here.
I know. And this is not... the problem is, anytime you say this, is the immediate gut reaction is, well, if you say it's good, then that means that there's no impetus for change. It's like...
Okay, I've heard that argument.
I've heard that before.
But like the argument that I get pushback on, when I say people that the most, they're like, well, my mortgage doesn't say so and stuff like that. My gas prices, I put, $90 of gas in my car today. It's fucking terrible.
I know that.
Oh yeah, no, I sit next to a whole bunch of them at the bar every Thursday. So, but there's this, I got to dig this out because you got to see it at some point in time. So now I know like National Geo has gone through its like good times and bad times, and it's been a little bit hard on the woke edge lately. But they did this really cool thing like 5 or 6 years ago where they went and identified median family income for like 10 different countries.
Oh, right.
And they went and they just rando picked somebody who was making that amount of money, all right, in that country. And it said, hey.
Fascinating.
It was really fascinating. Yeah. They said, hey, show us your house, take everything you own out of your house and put it on your front yard, kind of thing.
Oh, my God.
Dude, it was mind-blowing, okay? So you go to this place in, like, Algeria or, like, now a little bit further south in Africa. And people have, like, a few pots and pans, maybe an appliance, a bunch of clothes, couple bedding, like setups and things, and a whole bunch of like wash bins and shit.
And probably like one luxury item. So like,
well, sometimes they'd have like jewelry and shit like that, or they'd have like an heirloom or something.
Or they'd be like, well, this is the Village Xbox.
Episode title. All right, you're derailing my point here, man. That's good.
Yeah.
And then they go to like Pakistan and they do the same thing, and there'd be a few more things. And then they go to like an Eastern European Soviet bloc company, and they pull it all out, and they'd have a car now or something like that.
Yeah.
And shit. And then they go to like Germany.
Yeah.
And it's just fucking furniture and paintings and all kinds of shit. And it's like, wow, look at the difference. Then they go to Missouri. And this middle income dude and his like wife and 3 children have like 2 cars, a boat, an RV, 4 ATVs, a shitload of guns, furniture that like is more than anybody else, like by a magnitude of order. Yeah. All right, and then just piles and piles of like all kinds of clothes and all kinds of shit.
Tablets.
I mean, you can just tell because they had to zoom the drone out. All the appliances, like they were the first family that had a fucking dishwasher. So yeah, or no, a clothes dryer. That's what it was.
Oh, okay.
It was the
That's
only one that had a
okay.
clothes dryer. So in the entire issue. So it was really interesting, man. And so yeah, like there's no such thing as a village Xbox here in Colorado, man. I mean, maybe when it first came out, I do remember there being like a village Super Nintendo for like a week or two.
Sure, yeah.
Or maybe until somebody else's birthday rolled around. So
Yeah, well, and what you had to decide at some point, like after like the Nintendo thing, you had to kind of like divvy it up and say, what are you getting? And you had
yeah, you got to ask your parents for a Sega then, you know? Yeah.
And then there's the argument of like, all right, so here's what we got to think, right? If you get one of these and I get one of these, I can come to your house and play, and you can come to mine. However,
Yeah.
if we both get the same thing, then we can trade games.
Yeah, sometimes you would do that. But like